All right, we're going to finish up with Unit 3. So now we're going to talk about ecosystems and their communities. So here's your ICANN statement. So the greenhouse effect, gases in the Earth's atmosphere that slow down the loss of heat, therefore maintaining the Earth's temperature range. Now there are some factors with that. We have carbon dioxide, water vapor, methane, and several others. Now I will need you to make sure you understand methane. Methane is going to be a big, huge factor on your test, and as well as we're going to go back to carbon dioxide. Now, in my previous videos before, I have talked about that water was an abiotic factor. Now we're going to understand what these words mean. So biotic, bio means life. So life factors, this is living, influences the environment. So you are obviously living. So we're talking about anything that's living. Plants are living. You are living. Dogs are living. Okay. Now abiotic, the A cancels out the life. So this means no life or without life. Um, Physical or non-living factors that influence organisms within the ecosystem. So pH, soil, temperature, the gases, the sun, like that is not life. It just helps us have life. Okay. So what is a niche versus a habitat? Well, a niche is the animal's job. Literally, you think we got a job and we get paid, but animals got a job too. Like if you go to the lion and the lioness, you'll notice that the male lion stays home and be chilling. The woman goes and hunts and kills the stuff and bring it home to the man. And the man only fights if he feel like his woman or his family is being threatened. Now here in our day, we call the men the breadwinner, right? They go out and make sure that we can get the food. They the ones that's typically going out hunting for animals and stuff and bringing it back home to the house. So animals have their own type of thing. But even down to birds, birds even have it. Um, some birds, as you see, their job is to feed on the top of the tree. Some of them is to make a cry if they hear somebody. So they have jobs. Okay, it's just part of their natural role. Now the habitat is where an animal lives or the address, right? So it's physical and biological surroundings around the organisms. Some organisms share the habitat, but they have different niches. So again, warblers that live in the same tree, as you see by this picture, they all live in the same tree, the same animal, right? But they feed at different elevations. So you can have this part of the tree, you can have this part of the tree, you can have this part of the tree. If you see somebody coming, you little tweet, okay? So that's basically it. So the animals do have jobs. They have specific roles that they have to do, because if they don't do it, they won't survive. We don't go outside and try to feed our little birdies that fly by. No, it's the job for one of the people, one of the birds to go get food. One bird is to watch, and vice versa. So let's talk about symbiotic relationships. Symbiotic relationships are very, very important. You will see this on your test. Okay, symbiotic relationships is basically known as feeding relationships. But the first one we're going to talk about is commensalism. So commensalism is a nutritional relationship where one organism is benefited from another one, but the other one is not harmed. So you see the barnacles on the whale. He don't care. But the barnacles is like, yeah, man, I get to eat all that algae and dirt and I get to grow. The whale like, okay, cool. You can stay there if you want to. Like, he doesn't care. He's not being harmed. And I mean, in his mind, like, okay, whatever. It doesn't bother me. So they have that type of relationship. Hey, I can get stuff off of you and clean you up, and you don't care if you're dirty or not. That's fine. So the barnacles are benefiting, but then you see that um, the whale doesn't care. Now, mutualism. If everybody's mutual, that means we got to be on the same level, right? Or the same agreement. So this is where both benefit. So flowers and insects. Well, the insects there to go get food, right? So they like, okay, let me go to get my food from this flower. But the flower like, hey, guess what? You just transferred. You just went from that flower that was beside me, and I thought he was looking good. So you transfer his sperm, which is the pollen. So pollen is sperm. You transfer his sperm or pollen to me. Now I get to have his baby. I'm ready. I don't have to. So they are able to reproduce because the bugs go into all those flowers and get the reproduction cells from all the other flowers that it was at. So now when it lands on another flower, it gives birth to the other flowers. Because obviously, if they trying to have a baby, the flowers just can't get up and walk and try to meet somebody. So the insects actually be like, hey, we help you and you give us food. Mutualism. Parasites. Now we already know parasites is not good. So one is being benefited and one is being harmed, right? So if a tapeworm, you see a lot of times dogs have worms and stuff, and sometimes some they got good worms and they got bad worms, and then the bad worms sometimes you see it come out and they poop and stuff. Well, you tapeworms can make somebody eat, but if they don't have enough food, it can begin to eat inside the intestines. Fleas and ticks, like that's not cool. Look at this before they eat, then look at it afterwards. That is not cool. So then we also have predator and prey relationships. So we realize that helps limit population go, birth rate versus death rate. So if you look at the lynx and the hare, a lot of times I just call it the fox and the rabbit, right? Um, so if you notice the lynx here, he is blue, and the more finks it is, obviously the less rabbits it'll be. But rabbits grow like immediately. Soon as the rabbits grow, it was giving food for the lynx, so the lynx began to grow. But then as soon as the lynx came, they ate the rabbits, right? Then the lynx began to die because they didn't have enough food. So it kind of keeps us balanced. Factors that shape the ecosystem and the ecological succession. So we have series that change over time. So we have to understand the difference between primary and secondary. Those are very, very big. Ecosystems are constantly changing in response to natural disturbances and through human disturbances, right? So if we had a flood, it washed something out, then that definitely will make a home be gone for an animal. But if we cut down a tree, we make a home be gone for an animal. But what happens is once that happens, that animal may leave, but a new one says, hey, you move your feet, you lose your seat. So now our biggest one we're going to talk about is primary, and primary again means first. So our first and foremost. So the first thing it talks about is a volcano. So this is going to be off of natural disasters. So a volcano erupts and completely destroys everything and leaving it with igneous rock, right? Boom, everything's blank. So pioneer force organisms such as lichens or algae will be the first thing to grow back. They start growing back. Eventually, reestablished, but it takes hundreds of years, we'll finally have a whole brand new forest. But again, give it about 150 years. Now, secondary, that means it comes second. This is not our first thing. So this is something that happened by, again, forest fire or flooding, destroying the ecosystem. Now, the thing is, this reestablishment grows faster. So we're not talking about it just came from straight back rock. We're coming more or less from like ashes, and that ashes and decomposition allows us to grow faster. So instead of taking 150 years, this may take 70 years. So Earth's major biomes. Now we're not going to break down each biome, but you do have to identify the biomes. So a group of ecosystems that have the same climate and dominant communities, in which abiotic factors such as climate and biotic factors such as plants um, and animals. So if we find us, we're here, okay? And what is that? That is called the temperate deciduous forest. So we are actually a more forest place. If you notice, this is where some of the mountains and everything rises here, but we have like a lot of the trees, the forest. If you go, of course, to the more desert lands, and then you go to the grasslands. So the people have grasslands, but we have the big trees.